129 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams this year. We're on to the Auburn Tigers as we continue covering the SEC. The Auburn Tigers had a lot of controversy this year surrounding their head coach, Bryan Harsin, especially with the Booster Club not liking him and lots of other off the field and on the field stuff. But Bryan Harsin has since stuck around. He is not leaving this Auburn program quite yet. Auburn made a bowl game last year, but a lot of people are speculating that that might not be the case in 2022. And a lot of people are speculating that Bryan Harsin might not stick around for the entire season. So can Bryan Harsin survive enough to see his Auburn Tigers in a bowl game? Or will Bryan Harsin be gone off this team and Auburn maybe miss a bowl game? What's up, Tailgaters? My name's Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. Yeah, I'm predicting all 131 teams, which means I'm going to be predicting your favorite team. So all you got to do is hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded over these next 2 months. And hey, Auburn fans, you guys are going to know a lot more about this team than I do. So if you feel like you want to add something down in the comment section below, please feel free to do so. And with that, let's talk about Auburn in 2022. In order to do that, though, we got to talk about Auburn in 2021. So Auburn in 2021, what did they do? Well, they went 6-7, were 3-5 in conference, and that included, of course, making a bowl game. They did not win their bowl game. Of course, they played Houston. Houston being a pretty good football team last year, so really no shame. But making a bowl game in Bryan Harsin's first year, not bad at all. A couple stats for you. They were middle of the road in a lot of SEC categories, offensively, defensively, around 400 yards per game, 28 points on offense and on defense, only allowed 370 yards a game and 22 points a game. So their defense did a pretty nice job of stopping teams from getting into the end zone. But again, this was still a 500 team. This was a very average team all year long, right? They even gave Penn State a fight in Happy Valley. They'll play them again this year. We'll preview that game here in a little bit. But talking about Auburn too, what does Auburn have coming back and what are they losing? We're going to look at what they're losing first under head coach Bryan Harsin. For now, head coach Bryan Harsin. Again, we don't really know what happened. You can predict all you want whether or not he's going to stay for the rest of for the entire season. None of us really know. Quarterback Bo Nix is gone. Was that leading passer last year? Ended up getting replaced sometime in the season by TJ Finley, a former LSU transfer, who is coming back. But Bo Nix had around 2,300 yards last year, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. People have said forever that Bo Nix is not that great of a quarterback, and I don't know. I think Bo Nix is a solid option at the quarterback position. I think he's being a little underrated by a lot of people. But he has since transferred out to Oregon, and a couple pass catchers are going with him. Not to Oregon, but that are gone off the team. Demetrius Robertson and Kobe Hudson are both gone. Kobe Hudson was the leading receiver with 580 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Robertson had 489 yards, also 4 touchdowns as well, along with athlete Sean Shivers is gone off this team as well. On the defensive end, you got a lot of nice talent leaving this team. So Kobe McLean, Chandler Wooten, T.D. Moultrie at the linebacking position, and defensive backs, you got guys like Ladarius Tennyson, Roger McCreary, and Smoke Monday. All of them are gone and off this team. McCreary had 14 defended passes last year and 2 interceptions, was one of the best defensive backs in the SEC. So they're definitely going to be losing a lot of talent here off of this Auburn team, including their 3 top tacklers from last year, McLean and Wooten, both of which over 90 tackles. But hey, they still got some nice pieces on this team. TJ Finley is coming back, the former LSU prospect. Did end up becoming that starter later in the year, had 827 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception during his time at the helm. Pretty good numbers for the limited amount of experience. Meanwhile, they're getting another transfer, Zach Calzada. So some decision-making here for Bryan Harsin between TJ Finley and Zach Calzada, who led the Texas A&M offense last year. Of course, with Haynes King coming back, Calzada wanted to transfer out. You're also getting 2 pretty good running backs back. Tank Bigsby, who's one of the best running backs in the country, as well as Jarquez Hunter, who was backing him up. Bigsby was 1 yard shy of 1,100 yards last year, along with 10 touchdowns, and Hunter just around 600 yards and 3 touchdowns for him as well. They're also getting some guys back on the wide receiver end. Not going to be as good as a wide receiver group as it has been in years past, but Jackson, Johnson, and Samuel Schenker back pass catching for the Auburn Tigers. And they still have a lot of nice pieces, especially on the defensive line. Some of these guys are phenomenal talents, and they can be really, really good pieces to this Auburn defense. I think their pass rush is going to be the strongest part of this defense. Got guys like Leota, Jones, Hall, Emba is a transfer coming over. Wooden, who was their 4th leading tackler last year, also did have 5 sacks. Derek Hall had 9 sacks last year, was the sack leader on this team. Eku Leota had 7 sacks last year, so there's still a lot of nice pass rush options for this Auburn team. You also got Eugene Asante coming over from North Carolina at the linebacker position, and Owen Popo is coming back for this team as well. Had 23 tackles last year, and a really good defensive back group led by DJ James. So this is still going to be a pretty solid team, but Auburn has some difficulties on the schedule, and it starts in non-conference with that game I mentioned earlier against Penn State. You got a couple easy ones against Mercer and San Jose State, but then that home game against Penn State. Now, again, playing them at home is going to help. Playing them in Jordan-Hare is going to help. They had to go on the road and play in Happy Valley last year. So definitely playing in Jordan-Hare is going to help a tremendous amount with this Auburn team, but that's still a really hard game. And Penn State is not an easy team to play, and Penn State could be a team this year that puts themselves back on the map. They definitely have the talent to do it. They definitely have the will and coaching to do it. So Penn State, a team, could be a sneaky team this year. Wouldn't be surprised if they were actually favored going into Jordan-Hare, although I think Auburn would be the favorite. But Auburn, I think starting out this season 3-0 with that win against Penn State is key to making a bowl game, because their SEC schedule does not get better. Missouri, LSU on the road against Georgia, on the road against Ole Miss. Then you get your bye week. Arkansas on the road against Mississippi State, at home against Texas A&M. There's your 4th non-conference game against Western Kentucky, and then the Iron Bowl on the road against Alabama. If you haven't watched one of my videos before, I don't go through and predict every single game this year like I did last year. What I'm doing instead this year is more of a percentage-based look on things. So if the game is in red, you're probably not going to win the game. If the game is in orange, you're still probably not going to win the game. But hey, it's college football. Upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or upset potential games. Yellow-green are games that you probably should win. But again, it's college football. Upsets can happen. And then games in green are, you might as well book it as a win. 2 games in green, 2 games in yellow-green. The 2 games in green. Of course, the 2 games at the front of the season. I see no way Auburn does not start out this season 2-0. And if they somehow start out the season 1-1, it could be a very long year, and it could lead to Bryan Harsin's exit a lot earlier than we all thought he would. Then you got your games in yellow-green against Missouri and Western Kentucky. The only reason that Western Kentucky game is in yellow-green is because, yeah, Western Kentucky does lose Bailey Zappi, but there's still a lot of good pieces coming back for Western Kentucky, and a team that probably is one of the favorites to win Conference USA this year. And yeah, it's at home against Jordan-Hare, and it probably could be a game that I put in the darker shade of green. But I think it's that game, word of caution to Auburn. Now, they should still probably win the game comfortably, but don't take Western Kentucky lightly. They could spoil a party in Jordan-Hare. And then the other game, of course, against Missouri, I think Auburn should be able to win that. Then you got your games in yellow against Penn State. That's going to be a phenomenal game to watch. I already talked a little bit about that. You would like to have LSU and Arkansas at home. Those are very good teams to have at home, especially the LSU game. Arkansas, we'll see what happens there. And then your games in orange, and there are a lot of road games. On the road against Georgia, on the road against Ole Miss, and on the road against Alabama. 3 very tough games. Even going on the road and playing Mississippi State, the cowbell's ringing. That's going to be a hard game for Auburn to win as well as that home game against Texas A&M. So there are a lot of hard games on the schedule for Auburn this year. Of course, Georgia is that permanent opponent, and it just so happens that this is the year where Georgia and Alabama are the home teams when they play the Auburn Tigers. And this is going to be a really hard season. But again, I think the goal for Auburn this year is 6 or 7 wins. At least that's my expectation for this Auburn team. And it's not, well, it's going to be hard to get 6 wins, but it's not impossible to see 6 wins on the schedule. I mean, if you take the games highlighted in green, there's already 4. I think you can find 2 more wins on this team, and I'm actually going to favor Auburn a little bit in their home stadium against Penn State and start that season off 3-0, 4-0, and what sets up for Auburn well this schedule as well. They don't have to leave Jordan Hare until that road game against Georgia, so if they want to roll through those 5 games right there, go 5-0, they might find themselves in the national rankings, and Bryan Harsin might stick around, although it might tail off towards the end of the season there. But regardless, I think this Auburn team is in for another bowl season. I have them going 6-6. 6-6 is the record projection for Auburn. That's floor I do see as 5-7. I see them winning at least 1 SEC game, if not 2. 3 out of their 4 non-conference games, I think they're going to be pretty big favorites in. But that ceiling, I think, can be 9-3. If Zach Calzada or TJ Finley comes in and have really, really good seasons, Tank Bigsby explodes, has a 1,500-yard season. Some of these pass catchers step up. Maybe you have a 1,000-yard receiver, and this pass rush is just absurd. I think Auburn can have a pretty good season, and Bryan Harsin might be able to save his job. Now, that 6-6 record is saying that Bryan Harsin makes his way through the season, which, let's be honest, there's a lot of speculation about he might not be able to last the full season in Auburn. People just might want him out. So, but there you go. That's my prediction for the Auburn Tigers this year. 6-6, making another bowl game under Bryan Harsin. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Also, subscribe, ring the bell, of course, so you guys know when your favorite team gets updated if it wasn't Auburn. But the most important thing, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys in the next one. Goodbye.